Now, Asian communities across the country are shaken by the tragic events, including groups right here in Minnesota. Joining me now is the executive director of the Coalition of Asian American Leaders, Thaomee Xiong. She is a legal and legislative expert and works to amplify community voices. Thaomee, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
So let's start off, obviously, this week. Tragic and senseless mass shootings in California, Monterey Park and Moon Bay. Victims were predominantly of Asian descent. What has the reaction been like in Asian communities here in Minnesota that you've heard?
Well, a lot of our Asian American network leaders have asked if there's going to be space for a vigil, coming together to be able to share their experiences. Folks have also expressed that they're trying to limit their external activities. And overall, I think they're trying to understand how to process what's happening in California and kind of fears of having something like that be mimicked here in Minnesota.
Has there been any kind of developments on your end with the organization to reach out to the community to offer support and things like that?
When the first incident happened in Monterey Park, we sent out a statement via social media. But since then, we've been waiting to get more information. And so it's been challenging because we also don't want to spread any misinformation. And so we've reached out to our partners out in California to demonstrate some of our support. Today, there was a national call with the Shared Liberation Network, which is a group of grantees with the AAPI Civic Fund, and executive directors, and coordinators from all those organizations came together to just express how their individual communities are dealing with it, and then how organizational staff members are dealing with it. And we're still waiting to see what would be helpful because large gatherings are now, folks are feeling a sense of fear with large gatherings.
You know, and that brings a very important topic. You know, this is supposed to be a safe place to celebrate the Lunar New Year, and now it's marked with this devastating tragedy. Hearing the fact that folks are afraid to gather, that's changing their way of life because of something like this. That's very hard to hear.
Depending on the kind of experiences you've had in your life, it does cause you to pause more and kind of remain more insular. But I know folks in the Asian American community who fled here as refugees of war in foreign countries, and hearing violence, especially gun violence, is very traumatizing for them. And so oftentimes if mass shootings like this happen, in particular within the Asian American community, then our community members who've experienced trauma, violent trauma, recovering from war, are more likely to stay in their homes and not participate in external events.
And what is something that your organization wants to let people know in Minnesota, in all across the country? If you're feeling like you need a place to belong, to get your voice heard, what would you suggest, you know, an organization like yours, people to do to reach out to an organization like yours?
One, don't be numb to the mass shootings that have occurred throughout the country. And two, make sure that you reach out to anyone you know that might be impacted by the violence in California. I think folks really do appreciate if you ask if they're doing okay and if they do need any help. And then two, there really is a national problem around gun violence and mass shootings. And so that issue broadly needs to be addressed. And more narrowly, I think there's elements of mental health that is really important, that we provide mental health support to anyone, someone who's experiencing trauma, and also individuals who are witnessing the trauma. Those two components, I think, are not issues isolated to Asian Americans, but Asian Americans are experiencing it right now in a very different way.
Some great points there, and of course, some great resources as well for people to turn to. Again, Thaomee Xiong with the Coalition of Asian American Leaders, thank you so much for joining us today to give us insight on this issue.
Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate the time.